Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out, let people know I've gone live. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I say it like that because it is my interest. It's what I'm pulled towards. And lots of times in that upbringing, in that following suit, following the leader, being part of the herd, we act and live and move the same. And, when we don't move that way, we can feel guilty about that because we feel we're supposed to be moving that way. I feel that way a little bit this week because, I have been spending a lot of time in what I feel is a little bit of catch up in the lessons. And I don't feel that, when I was working part time or full time, even towards the end, that, I didn't feel like I was not getting the lessons in, so that I wasn't applying myself in those goals that I set out for myself, right? And I don't believe I did. But sometimes in that guilt of having extra time, that you feel that you have to apply that extra time into what you're doing. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm doing it a lot because I do feel that little bit of guilt that, I want to stay busy because, idle hands get yourself into trouble. But also there's a lot of stuff going on in my life that I suspect there's a lot of stuff going on in everybody's life. We are in a time of change. I was woken up to a lot of these ideas specifically because we are moving into the mix. And when I say moving into the mix, this has been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But as we get closer to what we want for the world, right? That that pushback that we have constant feels that too. And in the nervousness, right? Sometimes in thinking they're not welcome or included in the conversations or even the party, that they withhold, right? Withhold themselves, withhold their interactions. For me, myself also, because I come from that dynamic family myself in growing up, that, my parents were from opposite spectrums altogether. And not only did they have to dance around that relationships, they had children. And each one of me and my sisters were all completely different from each other. We have a different mix of both parents, and not just, I believe, genetically, where you get, these chromosomes or the blue eyes or the blonde hair. There is that real dynamic mix also in my family. But being on the opposite ends of the spectrum, being my dad being very spiritual and he was a very calm person. I don't know if I say it kind of cautiously like that because he portrayed himself as a very calm and everything under control, and right, nothing ever bothered him. I never saw my dad lose his temper. Never. Not in the 23 years that we spent together as father and daughter, right? And he was my best friend. He was my lifesaver. He was my guardian angel. He was the one person that I truly felt really, really did love me, right? And so I was very codependent and very hyper vigilant and attentive to that relationship with my father because, again, more than anything else, he was my lifeline, right? And I truly believed that. And I think it truly was very true in its intention that we somehow were meant to, right, have that experience together, though different experiences, but be able to support and hold each other and be the light for each other so it didn't impact us the way it might have or could have, right? And I don't know why I'm going down that conversation. I meant to come in and pull a card. I want to keep the content, you know, kind of direct and kind of not easy but familiar so that, right, I can apply myself in other aspects that I'm being pulled towards, right? And having the 54 powerful words, so grateful to have these 54 powerful words because it keeps me in that main trunk because you guys know I'm going to come in here and I'm going to spiel and I don't even know what I'm going to spiel in all honest truth. But I come into my lives afterwards and I go, oh my goodness, if that was a lesson, that was a lesson for me for sure. But maybe somewhere's down a line, that's a lesson for someone else, if not everyone else. I am creating the best human being I possibly can, right? I understand that there are aspects of myself that are beyond, right, just the human being. And I say it like that because it's a perspective, not recognizing that, right, the human being is pretty amazing, right? And I would hate to think that any of us were doing, right, mankind an injustice by holding back the potentials in the world that have something to offer in the transition that we are making, right? That we're all making, whether we choose to or not, right? How we come through this, I think it's an individual. But I think if you're kind of hanging out with me, right, we are making some movement. And I recognize just in my own vicinity the struggles in a lot of those movements and in the coincidence of how it's everybody, right? Right? Not just in my own vicinity, but in the vicinity of the people who hang in my vicinity or people out in the world that I have never met, but, possibly I admire and I take in those conversations. And so in my hypervigilance, I want to make sure to the best of my ability that the lessons that I'm taking in are appropriate for me and for what I'm doing or what I would like to do, right? I don't want to waste my time or anybody else's time in taking in lessons that's not going to serve me or serve anybody else in the end. So sometimes in that hypervigilance, I pay a little bit of attention, not just to the lesson, but from where the lesson or the experience is coming from, right? It's just an extra check, right? It's just a extra confirmation that you are on the main trunk of the tree and not just down some side branch. And I'm saying some side branch because some of those side branches are so majestic in themselves that they offer. I'm just going to say offer, right? They offer so much. And when I said, and I should say it because it was shade that came to my mind, that covering, that protection, that source for a squirrel hole that might, right, cover us or protect us from uh, any kind of hardships that are out there to resource off of us, right? I don't know why I'm saying that, but I'll come back into my life and I'll see, right? Because it was meant to be said. Because I was kind of choking on it when I decided shade, cover, what? And I just decided to bypass that, and I just realized, like, okay. So I'll come back in and we'll see for myself if it means anything in any way. I'm just going to pull a card. Couple of minutes, you guys. First perspective that comes to my mind. I have taken a fill today. It is late, and of course I wanted to make sure that I covered my butt and came in for my live today. And even if it's late, it still counts, right? It still counts. And in that, being able to do that, it didn't take away for that part for myself, that I was able to actually not just take in the conversations, right? Or even the experiences, but of course there was, right, a couple of pieces of content that I pull away from one because I'm getting too full of it, that I can go into something else. And right, a little bit of ancient history, right? Beginning of the world, first one are the one-celled amoebas, and right, and whales that actually traveled on land, and they did, right? But I fill myself up with other interests, and interests that attach themselves and are the confirmation in a lot of my own beliefs, right? And in the creation of the best human being I possibly can. It most definitely means evolution, right? Because I know in this moment I'm not the best human being I possibly could be. But like I've been lessoned in, right? That sometimes you have to be proud of the effort, and you always know, right? That guilt is going to surface. That you're going to feel like you could have done a little bit more, and maybe you could have done a little bit more. Maybe I could have done a little bit more, right? But in the creation of the best human being I possibly can be, I can only be me. That was good. Okay, you guys. We are going to pick a card here. We've got this card right here. This is the card. Just a couple of minutes. First perspective. Oh, this is a good one for tonight. How about a little bit of gratefulness? Right? A little bit of gratefulness for the conversation, a little bit of uh, gratefulness for the food that comes across our table or the roof over our head. Little bit of gratefulness for not having the hairy, scary, and the crazy town in our systems in the moment, knowing that in the next moment, right, it could flip over and become something else. But in this moment, I'm grateful to be able to just have a good system, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of moving forward, right? And I do have that sense in those little, like I said, confirmations across my day, right? And also, I'm going to say I'm grateful, right, for that little bit of guilt that comes across my path. I know, right? That guilt is sometimes just in the way we were brought up. It's just naturally how we think, right? We're always hyper vigilant, and because we are non-confrontational, lots of times we feel guilty because we usually will kind of, I'm trying to think what it's, the image that comes into my mind is slowly back away before being noticed, right? Because if we're noticed and if, right, we're known to be into the vicinity that we sometimes we don't have a choice, right? Because once we're in the mix, we're in the mix. And so I'm a little bit going to say I am grateful for my hypervigilance that I can feel out a room, I can feel out a conversation, I can feel out a person, right? That I'm able to make a little movement for myself because I picked up some tools along the way that in the moment I would have done anything to be out of. But in being able to push through and with a little bit of resilience, a little bit of movement forward, few conversations, few experience, you get to appreciate those hard lessons. And so I'm going to put in a little bit of gratefulness for the hard lessons, right? Sometimes we would prefer that we didn't have to have those hard lessons, that we didn't have to go through them, that somebody else should have gone through them, or right, or not. They shouldn't have even happened at all, that somebody should have had the better sense to step in, right? But just the fact that I got through it, that you got through it, right? It's done. It's over with. And the lessons in how we got through that, well, we get to utilize the gifts out of that, right? And I say it all the time. I earned that badge, right? So grateful for my hypervigilance that keeps me on, right? The main trunk of the tree. I do wander off down those side branches, but I am grateful for that good sense to pay attention, right? And know when it's time to turn around or find a detour. Okay, you guys, I am grateful that my life was played out because I was trying to give myself an out tonight, right? And I held myself accountable in that. Grateful that, well, I'm grateful that I am resting. I am grateful that I am listening to myself. I am grateful for those little bit of guilts that have come across my path that motivate me to get things done. Yes, I am, right? Because I do feel at the end of the day, I have accomplished and I feel good when I accomplish. And you guys know that. Okay, you guys. That's my good cheer. And we'll see you tomorrow.